Howdy, my name is Jacob McElroy, a developer here at Okteto, and today I'm going to be introducing Okteto Divert by way of a tutorial. So Okteto Divert is a new feature that we thought would be beneficial in allowing you to have multiple versions of your application in development. Okay, typically when you want to develop on an application with Okteto, you would create your Okteto manifest, run Okteto up, and we would replace that deployment with a dev container, and you go ahead and make all of your changes. But if you wanted to compare side by side and see how those changes are progressing, you would need to Okteto up, Okteto down, deploy the whole thing twice, which can be very expensive if you have lots and lots of containers, take a long time. The configuration of it can be quite difficult. If you're doing it all locally, even without Okteto up, it becomes even more complicated because you're having to reconfigure everything, build all the containers locally, and it's just a mess. So with Okteto Divert, we've greatly simplified this and given you the ability to do it by adding an optional divert to your Okteto manifest. So let's get started and see how it works with this tutorial. So the tutorial is based on a example application called our service catalog. So if we go to documentation, tutorials, getting started with Okteto Divert, it's a tutorial and interest. We have all the information you need to do this on your own here, or you can just follow along with this video. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy and work through this tutorial. So we'll go over to Okteto Cloud, click deploy, get URL, click the GitHub easy button, Okteto/catalog. This is going to go ahead and deploy that example application. This is going to clone the repository, build all of the containers, and launch those so that I have a usable version of the application in the cloud. The project lives here at GitHub. Find some information here and a link back to the tutorial. All the code is available for you to fork and make changes on your own or try it out. Okay, and what is this service catalog? Well, the service catalog is at a high level is an HTTP-based application with all of these various HTTP services. We record a registry of service owners, who or what team is responsible for that service, the services themselves, and then we run a health checker that is constantly reporting data on the health of those services. All this data gets passed up to an API and then the front end where we have a web application that gives us a nice visual of, in one place, all the services, their owners, and the health. So super beneficial, especially if you like to keep tracks of these types of things. And this one is just canned data. It's just for demonstration purposes to make a point about how you can develop with Okteto and Divert. So this is deploying, and when it's all done and deployed, we're going to see that we want to make a change. We want to develop on it, and we'll go about how we do that with Divert. So let's go back over to the cloud, see how we're progressing. It's all done. We have all of those components have been deployed here, and we have our endpoint here. And if I visit this, we'll see our service catalog. So we see our services, user data service, event history service, who's responsible for them, and the current health. That's great. But what I don't like about this is that I want historical health data. You might have been able to see where that coming, but it's very beneficial to see not just how the health is now, but how it is over time. So in our canned data, we've basically created a different variant of the health service, and we want to develop and bring that live to these changes here. So let's do that. So we're going to be working on just this health checker deployment. That's where all the changes are going to be focused. We want to reuse the API front end, owner registry and service registry, so they don't have to duplicate all these containers and do all of the reconfiguration, which is just slow and cumbersome. And we want to do it with as little configuration as possible. So if I go over into the repo, CD over to the health checker component, and look at the Okteto manifest, we see we have a divert here. The divert simply has the name of the ingress that we want to duplicate. That's the ingress that already exists. We're going to duplicate it, the service, health checker, and the port that gets used by the health checker service. All right. With that defined, we run Okteto up. If we go back to the cloud, we'll see our development container is activating right here. It's the same, it's networked in as the same as the health checker deployment, but it's going to be running our development container that we can actively make changes on. So all the code on our local machine is going to be synced over here, and then we could run this here separate from the original health checker. Okay, and as it goes about doing all the reconfiguration, we see them all coming back up, and we see we have new endpoints. These diverted endpoints have this little diverted resource treatment so that we know kind of how they came about, right? If we go to our original endpoint, I still have up here, reload, nothing changes, looks great. If I go to our diverted one, we're going to use the API, use the front end owner registration, but now we'll use the health checker running or not running, as is the case now, in my development container. Nothing's running, so I'll visit, and the front end's not working anymore. So that's not progress. So let's go ahead, before we run that server, let's go ahead and make our change. So because I'm syncing these things remotely, I can make my change locally in my favorite, whatever favorite tool that I want to use. Here I'm going to be opening up cmd main.go, and I'm in the health checker sub part of the project, subdirectory. And I've already implemented all the changes I need to have, and I just need to make use of them. So I'm going to go ahead and change some of the configuration and setup code in my main. Change this from simple to advanced. Okay, that advanced should be the improved variant with all of the historical health data. So we'll go back over to my development container, do go run cmd go. That's going to pull down all of the dependencies for my Go project into my development container and run the new server. Here we've got the logs, and so we know the server is up. And if we go back to, this is that diverted endpoint. If we go back there, now we have all those changes live, and we can see historical data, and the front end is continuously polling here. We can see the logs come through. So now we have both variants running side by side. This makes development, you can be confident in the changes as you're making them. If you decide you don't like this, you're not so sure, well, maybe you like it, but you're not so sure about this variant, you can go ahead and create another one and try out a different way, and then you can have all three side by side running here. All different powerful things that you can do. So we've done this with minimal containers and minimal config. We didn't have to rebuild everything, and we just focused on what we want to develop and didn't worry about anything else. When we're all done, Okteto down. Development container will be taken down. Our endpoints are gone. We're back to the normal application here. Thank you for your time. Go out and try the tutorial yourself. Again, it can be found at okteto.com. Documentation, tutorials in the sidebar, getting started with Divert. Let us know what you think.